Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Give. We're super excited to have our guest on today. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're all about.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Bianca Ramosdelrio, and I currently reside here in North Carolina. Originally, I'm actually from Germany, and then over a few pivot ways, I came down here. Yeah, so at this time, I'm serving mainly the general population, but definitely focus on military service members, their families, and also first responders and their families, working on trauma and even complex trauma. And also, first and foremost, I'm a marriage and family therapist and love just helping couples make their marriage work.
Wow, it seems like you are definitely one of service. What got you started with all this? I know that trauma can be a really hard topic to focus on. Tell the audience what really got you inspired to do this work.
Yeah, so I spend a significant time around the military population. I spent 2 times 3 years in South Korea, where you are being definitely exposed to the service members being away from their families, and that can have a tremendous impact on them. And I just saw them, in their midst of being sad and also depressed, and there was just a lot that resonated for me. It's um hard to see people suffer. And back then, though, way back when, I was actually a personal trainer, so I was helping them become their best version with their fitness goals that they set for themselves. And once I came back to the US after the first time being in South Korea after 3 years, I decided I wanted to go and become a marriage and family therapist, because to me, that seemed to be the best way how I can serve and give back to the ones who are serving us. So literally, back then in 2012, that was when my journey kind of started, in wanting to serve people.
Oh, wow, that's so inspiring, all that you've gone through and grown through. I love to hear how, like, you're a person of expansion. You could have
Mm.
easily stopped at the personal trainer part. You could have stopped when you started with this, or you could have stopped when you started with that, but no, you keep finding new ways to serve. What do you
Mhm.
think it is about your personality that gets you thinking of all these new ways that you can go above and beyond for humans?
Mm. Well, I when I first started, I mean, it was just merely a feeling for within me that I had just a gift in talking to people and the people listening to me, and they felt better afterwards. But now I think approximately 5 years ago, my focus and my determination shifted even a little bit more, only because I've had a daughter then, and she was later diagnosed with a genetic disorder, the Mowat Wilson syndrome, which brought a lot of difficulty in just our life in general, in managing it. And therefore, within itself, though, lit a fire for within me and wanting to um become a better person. Even, like, not that I'm a bad person, but I just wanted to become a better version of myself even with that, and then pass that on, and also be able to even um, resonate with people who are also possibly having a child who has special needs. I always think that everything that happens to me and happened to me in my life is just an add-on for me to grow, and something that I can pass on to others.
Absolutely. Sounds like you took some of your pain and turned it into purpose to help other people. And I always love to feature people on this show that do the things like you do. I know a lot of what you do, it deals with a lot of trauma and a lot of, really mostly taxing stuff that you probably have to deal with. What is your favorite part of what you do?
So my favorite part for me is when I see my clients literally acquire an aha moment. And what that usually sounds like is like, man, what you just said? I never thought about it like that. And these moments, those are the most rewarding moments for me in my profession that I would want to hear. So I mean, it's so rewarding. I go home afterwards, I'm like, like a little girl in a candy shop. But I mean, it literally let me feel that I did somebody something good and they now move towards like a better version of themselves.
Wow, that's beautiful. What are some of the techniques that you use?
So I primarily use, CBT. Use a lot of solution focused, and I also use EMDR. And EMDR is really something that has helped a huge amount of people, in processing trauma. And it's with bilateral stimulation. It's helping the client to literally let their voice walk them through the trauma, and also let their voice tell them, man, maybe I need to look at it a little bit from a different direction. Maybe I need to be able to um, not give myself the fault, but actually pass the fault on to possibly who it may belong to. If, for example, if I would work with a sexual abuse victim, that would be, for example, an example. And then also in addition to it, I lay tremendous weight on internal dialogue with yourself. As oftentimes we are often talking to other people and blaming other people, like, for example, you make me do this, you make me feel this way. And all of these um narratives that I'm kind of broadcasting, right? I mean, first of all, I'm hearing myself, which then again, I'm believing even more so that the other person is responsible for my feelings. And I usually do not think about it, right? But I help people kind of see it from a different perspective. I'm like, listen, you have to own what's happening in some cases, right? Like, for example, nobody can make you feel, nobody can make you do. And these are often things that people do not want to accept right away, because they're like, yeah, but he's saying this and it makes me feel this way. And I'm like, it's not making you feel any way whatsoever. It's letting you feel a way. And, this makes a tremendous difference in how people first off talk to themselves and then also communicate with others, if they would be able to then accept this principle.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically, or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
Yes, and I've been exposed to a lot of people, and I hear oftentimes, "Well, I'm not the one who asked for that flat tire, and I'm not the one that asked for this trauma, and I didn't, say, please, make my bank account, all my money get stolen, and all of these,
Yeah.
reasons why they can't be happy is because of something
Mhm.
outside of themselves." Can you give the audience a little bit of what you would tell somebody who's in a situation like that?
Yeah, yeah. So, first off, nobody asks for anything in regards to trauma, right? I mean, whatever happens, happens to us. And of course, we do not like it. However, in the same token, we have to kind of think, okay, so this has happened to me. What can I do for myself to be able to pass forward and be able to look at it from a different perspective within itself? Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, yeah, it makes perfect sense. It makes so much sense. Have you experienced that some people still find that kind of like hard to get past
Mhm,
so that they can move forward?
mhm. And honestly, oftentimes people have a hard time moving forward if they are kind of locked in somewhere, and I think that's often the case when people are in the military, because in the military, you sign a contract, you sign it for a certain amount of years. And whenever you're in there and you're in a certain unit, where you work in a certain office with people that you do not like, for example, then you're stuck in one way or another, right? I mean, it's oftentimes maybe similar in a civilian life, but in a civilian life, it's easier to kind of be like, you know what? I cannot grow here. I don't like it here. It's not good for my mental health. I need to move on. But in the military, it's again different, right? So they are more so stuck with where they are. And I think too, that is a big contributing factor of why people often are just um, sometimes even commit suicide. I mean, that's a big, big, big deal. And the numbers are climbing. And, I mean, yeah, yeah, that's it.
Wow. So it makes perfect sense what you're saying is like, if I have a job I don't like in the civilian world, I get to say, well, I'm just going to get another job, Or if I'm having a hard time with somebody who's at the workplace, then I can just find a new place to work. And
Mhm,
you're right. My daughter was actually in the military for 8
mhm,
years, and she, you're stuck kind of where you're stuck. They're in charge and they get to choose where you're going to be at. What kind
mhm.
of advice do you give people in that situation to help them understand that they are still in some way in control?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in one way or another, the only control they have is really over themselves. And then in these instances, you want to think about, okay, how can you possibly advance your career where you are? Do you want to go ahead and possibly go from enlisted to some sort of officer side? Do you want to advance as far as like um, change up your job? What can we do to help you move towards that goal? Maybe study for a test that can help you advance in your career within the military, right? And or, consider, okay, how long would it be till your contract ends? Would that be something where you say, okay, I want to get out, I want to go back to school, I want to do something different? I mean, we have to always try to look forward while we often also teach them, try to stay in the moment. You also, in this instances, want to help them look forward and look for the positive outside of the negative.
Yeah, like strategically plan what your next move's
Mhm.
gonna be when you can get there so that you're not prolonging things by not really having a plan and kind of still being stuck. Is that what you're trying to
Mhm.
say?
Yes,
That
yes,
makes perfect
sure.
sense.
Mhm.
Makes perfect sense. So working with the military, I'm sure that is a challenge, but there's also gotta be a lot of challenge in the couples you work with. Why don't you
Mhm.
talk a bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, within the couplehood, oftentimes, and the biggest problem is usually communication. And communication is literally, I mean, the biggest within couples and with everyone really around us, right? And in couples, oftentimes, they don't hear each other. They are talking to each other, but everybody talks within their own way and within their own wanting to benefit from it. And how I sometimes bring it up to them, I'm like, are you guys married to each other? Are you guys partners to one another? Or are you guys enemies to one another? Because oftentimes that's how it sounds, right? And yeah, I mean, oftentimes we have to find some sort of starting ground. And in today's day and age, because of where we are, and not to say that it had not been a big impact in the past, but today even more so with social media and everything that's just more and easily accessible. Infidelity is just still one of the highest ranking things as well that just impact a couplehood and that I primarily deal with when couples come to me.
Wow, that's got to be emotionally taxing as well for you.
Mm.
And how do you deal with hearing all of these things going on all the time and helping other people with their struggles?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the key to being a good counselor to other people is first off, have your own counselor. You know, this was actually something brought to me back when I had a supervisor. It's like a good counselor is a good counselor if they have a counselor. So that's number one. And number two is that you cannot take it personal. You are not there and in the session for yourself. You're in the session to help other people. So meaning that even though if something may come up for me in that moment, either I'm going to write it down as a side note to myself and then put it to the side because again, the session is not about me. And I mean, that is what I would do for myself to be present to my clients. So it's putting them first.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes we all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
Absolutely. With my nonprofit, we give away cars to single parents in need, and we get a video for every applicant. And so we have to watch all of the videos. And, sometimes it can be emotionally taxing to hear all these sad stories. And of course, you want to help everybody and give to everyone. And it's very difficult to manage that. But I've, over the 8 years we've been doing this, been able to kind of compartmentalize that. So that's kind of the question I was asking you is like, sometimes there's a lot of pain in the room sometimes that you're in, whether it be from the trauma or from the couples or from whatever you're dealing with. And I was just curious how you cope with hearing all of that all the time. So thank you for answering that question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So with working with couples, what is the most rewarding part?
So the most rewarding part is once they learn more of the skills, which we often use also the Gottman principles, and the Gottman principles, they base their success up on enhancing the couple's love maps, nurture your fondness and admiration towards one another, turn towards one another versus instead of away from each other, and then also be able to let your partner influence you, be able to solve solvable problems and also be able to come to each other and say, okay, this may not be a problem that we can even solve together. And then also overcoming some sort of gridlock, where people are just often stuck within a problem. And then also just creating shared meaning, and there are definitely some techniques that, we use where we include some tools from Gottman itself. There's an app that we can utilize, and then we can have people start over again, finding connection within the relationship, which often just starts with simple questions, questions like, who are your 3 closest friends? But then if I ask the question, I also would have to answer them for my partner and see if I'm actually knowledgeable still at this time in our relationship, of who the 3 best friends are, for example, and if I get it wrong, then, my partner can actually fill me in. For example, if people have been married for over 15 years, then it would be something where maybe, if there also happens some sort of difficulty within the relationship, that we have not possibly shared too much anymore about ourselves, in regards to who my current 3 best friends are. Maybe back then it was Joe, Susie, and Tom, but today it's only Joe and Susie, and then, Tom is gone, and now it has been replaced with Edwin, for example, but I had not been able to share this with you because maybe we have been going all these ups and downs on a constant that it was just not relevant on sharing, right? But with that for within itself, it can also create distance because then I may not be able to know, okay, who's the person next to me?
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to reestablish that connection. And, I've heard so many people say, oh, we've been married for such and such amount of years. Like, basically the spouse does their thing, I do my thing, and we're good, and
Mhm.
people kind of, I can see how they would neglect that connection part, and that could be a huge issue. How
Yeah.
much of the struggles you see within couples is an ego issue?
Mm. I want to say, ego issue is mainly present though within the military. I mean, from my experience, because there is a lot more where, for example, the person who is in the military feels like they are superior because they are oftentimes too the breadwinner, for within the relationship, and it takes over the relationships a lot. And then, I mean, I would not be able to put a percentage on it, but I definitely want to say for within that field as military population, I've seen it more than in the civilian side.
Ah, very interesting. I just in experience with chatting with friends and whatnot, I always hear, well, that ego problem of like, well, they're trying to
Mhm,
like be right all the time,
mhm,
or I'm right and they're wrong, and no matter what they say or do, they're still wrong, and that can be very challenging, I would say, in any relationship, whether it be a friendship or a marriage, to
mhm.
like always be the wrong one or always be the right one. I don't see how
Yeah,
that would shake
yeah.
out well.
Yeah. But I have to add though, people often say a relationship is 50-50. Then you go to people and say a relationship is 100 and 100 because everybody is supposed to put 100% in from each side, right? But I'm going to tell you though, from my perspective, from what I have seen over the years, there is no exact balance. There is just no exact balance when it comes down to having to make a decision. Something, for example, that could be easier to make a decision over is like, okay, buying a house. We both have to agree, right? Buying a car, we both have to agree in most cases, right? But then if we talk about egos, there may be one person who's going to be like, I'm going to buy it either way. But in the overarching theme of, couplehood, these are usually the um, things where we would have to come together and make a decision together. But when we would have conversations, for example, which into today, I mean, even like by the end of last year, that took a tremendous hit on some relationships was politics, right? Or
Mhm.
religious views. And in these instances, we literally have to come more from the acknowledgement direction versus the agreement direction, right? And we have to be able to acknowledge for each other, okay, this is your opinion, this is my opinion, and we have to respect each other for that. We cannot come from, you have to agree with me because this is my view. Because if you come with that idea into a relationship, then you're going to be in for a really rough ride.
Absolutely. No, that makes so much sense. So much sense. Can you tell the audience an example of a little thing that they could do in their community that might just be a little give on their end, but might make a big impact on the other side?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, I think every little effort is something that can have a really great output. And it does not really matter, what it is. If you go and you drive and you see somebody on the side of the road who, you know, want something to eat, I mean, give them something to eat if you can, or if you are able to have some time on your hands and volunteer in a nonprofit, make that effort because on the other side, there are so many people who benefit from it. So it's just literally saying, this is what I can do and want to do to help other people. Because, in addition to that, if I can add that as well, oftentimes people ask, what is my purpose? And I can truly tell you from the beginning on ever of as far as I can think back, I never questioned myself. And, the answer really, not that I question myself, but, people constantly come also to me and ask me, what is my purpose? And, I'm saying your purpose is to serve others. Our purpose is to serve each other. And that is such an easy answer and would be overarchingly just such an easy answer for people to accept if they would allow themselves to accept it.
Absolutely. It's not a me world. It's where humans we're meant to be in connection. And so I love the example. Can you
Yeah.
give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have just been a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
Yeah. Well, it was actually something that I've heard before that people do. But I was going through a drive-through and I was about to pay for something, and somebody in front of me already paid it, you know? And I was like, oh, wow. uh, Maybe something fabulous just happened in that person's life, but it made my day. And from then on, I actually do it here and there as well for people, that I pay for them if I'm in front of them. Or even like if I see a person in front of me in a grocery store, for example, and they do not have exact cash, I would, for example, also I even paid for like a client's groceries once because she was struggling. She didn't know where it was coming from. I never shared it with her, but it was little things like that that inspired me to just be more and give more.
I love that example. And I like how you talk about anonymously doing things like the person in front of you in that line. It just feels so good because you know they did it with no judgment of who you are, what you wear, what kind of car you drive, what
Right.
kind of work you do. They do it with no judgment. And it's just so beautiful. They don't know you, they don't know your story, they don't know if you're struggling, they don't know if you're doing great. And it doesn't matter because they just want to do something nice for the person behind them in the line. So I love those examples. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
What about nonprofits? Are there any nonprofits that you're excited about?
Yeah, well, I have my own nonprofit that I use to support also the trauma processing with the people that I work with. And it's called the Faith Works Stable Foundation, where I'm utilizing horses, to help people feel better. We are working with, again, people who have endured trauma. They come out, they be around the horses, they can brush the horses, they can just be around the horses, and it helps people to lessen their anxiety, come out of this depressive state a little bit. And it's just such a rewarding and, impacting tool to have. Yeah.
I love this. I love, love, love this nonprofit. I have done a little bit of research on it, but I want to hear you tell us the story of how you started it.
Yeah. My nonprofit and my private practice actually started all at the same time. And I literally had like this fire in my belly, and it came to be on 4th of July in 2023 when I really, was um, at the crossroads. I want to say, where my daughter has had again, like one of her worst health issues come up. And I was like, okay, I need to do more as far as like for me as a mom, that later on I can be there for her even more so. So now I just have to start something, with the private practice, and then also start something alongside that I can support the private practice and support the people that would be coming to me to seek help. So literally everything kind of happened within the same time frame. And from there on, I just started building, and I'm even now still building and trying to get bigger because, there is not enough help there for people. And specifically, which is something that's a true shame. And I'm going to put it out there as it is. There are not enough providers who would accept Medicaid and help that side of the population to help with the mental health. And I do understand, of course, why some people shy away from it, but we decided to take it on. We decided to wanting to help the population, no matter what the cost may be in the end, because we want to help to create a difference.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful, beautiful reason to start and a reason to carry out this mission. I love it. Tell
Mhm.
us how the horses can actually play a role in helping people deal with the trauma they've been through.
Yeah. So, horses, they have a really big magnetic field. So I'm not sure how familiar you are and if you have ever been around horses, but if you are around them and if you're on them, I mean, it feels like you are so connected to earth. You are so connected to peace, and you will be able to just feel more relaxed, feel more calm, you know? And the horses just, of course, they have to be horses that can be utilized for that cause. But at the same time, I mean, they come up to you, they just, um, also be calm for within themselves to create peace for you. It's sometimes very hard to explain, but I think people would only have to be able to experience it to understand it.
Absolutely. And when did you start this nonprofit?
We started a nonprofit in 2023. Also, 4th of July day, that was again like that day when everything kind of came to term, and I decided, okay, today I'm going to sit down, I'm going to go ahead and create all of these pieces to move forward and help others.
I love it. I couldn't love it more. Thank you so much for sharing that. Why don't
Yeah.
you tell the audience where they can find you, learn more about you and your services, your nonprofit, all the things?
Yeah. So they can come and visit us on the faithworkstablefoundation.com. And then also they can go ahead and call us, which they can call us at 910-853-0009. And then can also email us, which would be the conversation location pllc@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all you've shared today. I've really enjoyed having you as a guest on the show. And if anybody out there is watching this and you need some help, sorry. And you need some help getting through some of that trauma, or maybe you're a couple in need, please do reach out, find out more how she can maybe help you get through all of that. If you're interested in that nonprofit, go to their website, find out more. And if you can, go make a donation. $1 or $5 multiplied by the large number of people we have watching this episode would make a huge difference to this nonprofit. So thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for being on, and we'll see you all next week. If you enjoyed this episode of Little Give, head on over to our website at littlegive.com. You'll be able to find all the information about previous episodes and past guests that we've had on. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Little Give, all the information is also on the website. And if you have a nonprofit that you love and would like to recommend be on the show, all of that information is also on the website. We really appreciate you watching today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.